Hello friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I have some little tips for you on using the color and contour bundle that's in the new annual catalog. So this is a cute stamp set with two different types of flowers, some great sentiments with fun fonts, and a set of dies called the Scalloped Contour Dies. A lot of layering going on here, a lot of different designs, of course, scallop, 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 and we can cut out the flowers, and we have this really nice big scallop, which we're gonna be using on this card. So let's just take a quick look here. I used the Pansy paper, the designer series paper, Pansy Petals, I do believe it is. I used the gingham here. It does have a pretty background on there on the other side, but I decided it was okay to go ahead and use that gingham, but it has a real pretty pattern on the other side too. And on here you can see this new embossing folder I used, and that's the bark embossing folder. It just has a nice look of bark, but also kind of reminds me of a dried mud whenever you're like outside. So it could do a new nice outdoorsy look there. So we're gonna see how I did a couple cute little things on here. Layering on with the scallop here, and I'm gonna show you a tip with this little guy here, okay? So we're gonna be using the new Evening Evergreen on our card here. We're going to be using the cardstock, what is this ribbon called? This ribbon is called the Open Weave ribbon. We're going to use this beautiful open weave ribbon and basic white. And we're going to use another new in color, the Pale Papaya. Okay, so the couple little tricks I want to show you on this card is, okay, so I was making some cards the other day and I was getting a little frustrated with my dies because our older dies, when you would put the die down, you would have a white edge that you could see, but our newer dies, you have to line it right up on the lined image, and I was having a little difficulty. So I just wanted to show you a little tip that my friend, dear friend of mine and a team member, Sandy Milliken, suggested, well, reminded me of, and I was like, yes, thank you, Sandy. So here, what I'm gonna show you is like the little trick here. Okay, so we're still gonna do that same thing that I've always shown you with the Stamparatus. We're still going to put a piece of paper in here. We're going to mark our piece of paper because we're gonna be taking it out. We know that it's gonna go into the corner up there. And then we're going to ink this up with the Evening Evergreen. And I just saw that I missed some there. Okay, so there we go. And we're gonna go ahead and get that part of our card keeping with the theme of the Evening Evergreen. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we wipe off the stamp, because how many times have you wondered where you got the ink and it was because you didn't wipe off your stamp? So the next thing I did was I placed my other second step, two-step stamping on top of there. So what I'm going to do is pull this over the way I did it. Okay, where is it here? Oh wait, I have them backwards here. I'll have to do it this way, right? No, there we go. Oh, my eyes were going the wrong way. Okay, so then the next thing is I did the two-step stamping with the Pale Papaya. This is a really pretty, kind of reminds me of our Grapefruit Grove, but it's actually a little bit lighter. So it would go really nice with the Grapefruit Grove. So then I'm just going to stamp right on top of that image. And that was very easy to do. I just put my clear stamp right around the outlined image, and then I closed my acrylic plate for my Stamparatus right on top of it, and then it's in perfect place. But remember, this is an artistic set, so there is a type of kind of the right way to do it, but yet it's not going to be perfect, so don't get too, oh, I got some green on my fingers. Now see that? That is just an accident waiting to happen. So I'm going to get myself a little wipe here and get some of that off. At least I know that it's dry. Okay, so this is what you guys already know how to do, correct? I'm gonna move these stamp pads. So you already know how to do this. Now the next step would have been to take this over to my Stamparatus. Where is my, here, I'm gonna get my die out here. We're gonna be using that little guy, not a little guy, big guy. And so we would put this on where, you know, we would put this, position this, and we would go over and cut out and come back with a blank one. You know, we would go over, cut it out, we'd end up with this, and we'd have this blank one. And a lot of times I showed you, you can pop that one back in here. But before we get to that, I was having a little trouble. It wasn't necessarily this one, but it was another stamp set that was really giving me a, oh gosh. And so what you're gonna do is you're going to just take and make yourself, anytime you have a die, just make yourself a blank template. Now, this isn't the template that went into my Stamparatus. We want to definitely not lose that. I just made a random one here. So the thing you can do is now take, and I have to see exactly where it goes. Now, get yourself a little bit of some type of a adhesive, a temporary adhesive that's not going to hurt something. I use this purple tape, and I think it's just called purple tape. And I'm going to get a couple pieces of it. I'm going to kind of make it so it's not super sticky by just pushing it against my finger. Okay, so what you're going to do is take this template that you've cut out, and you're going to put it, okay, see this little piece here that kind of has a little bit of a square bulby thing? That goes right there, okay? That's when you're going to know you're right about, no, where is that? Where's that square bulby thing? Yeah, it is here. So it's right here. Yeah, okay. So now when I put this template around my image, I can get a lot better of a idea of exactly where my die is going. Do you notice that? See, now I can see the little bit of white. Now, this maybe wasn't the best stamp set to demonstrate this with because it's kind of easy to get the white around this one, but any other you're trying to put a die around something, like, it's really difficult to get it perfect. So if you do it this way, then take your die. Now you have this with your little template and it's taped down. Take it over to your Big Shot and you're going to be able to slip that right in there. Now notice, this doesn't move. It's slipped into that hole. Now, when you run that through your Big Shot, it's going to come out perfectly, just like this one came out perfectly with enough of the white that I wanted around there. So that's a good trick. If you're having trouble, just stamp your image. It doesn't even have to be done on your Stamparatus. It just happens to be, I had my Stamparatus already set up because I was making multiples of this. But any stamp, if you're having trouble, my trouble was I was cutting out the hats and I was getting a little more white around the bill of the hat. And so I must have did it like 5 or 6 times. And then when Sandy reminded me of just making the template around it, it just was like the light bulb was relit in my brain. So just try that little trick, okay? So then, as you can see, we'll just go ahead and demonstrate in case you hadn't seen this before, but I'm sure this is an old technique here. But what you would do is you would stamp. Now you have that flower there, and now you can cut a bunch of blanks and put those blanks right back into that place, and then you can quickly do multiples of this flower without having to go and do that whole die thing. Okay, now put it back in there. And this does, and now remember to clean it off so you don't get any residue by accidentally putting it on there. And then we just keep that down into there and we'll stamp it with some of our pale papaya. We'll come back over, open it back up, pull that off. There we go. And we've got another purple, I'm looking at the purple tape, another perfect image. Now notice how much that dries. That's wet and this one's dry. So don't get too afraid if you end up seeing that happen. Okay, so that was our handy, let me see here, get all this off. That was our handy dandy way of using our Stamparatus. But the trick I love, really love, is putting this little template over our image and then popping the die in there. So that works really well. Okay, so that was my little trick there. So now let's just put together this card here. So with this card, I was using that large scallop, and this scallop also has some little pinpoint circle stitching there. And so what you're gonna do is I started out on the front with a 3-inch tall, 3 inches by 5 1/4. And what I did is I just took my die and I just lined it up right with just a scant amount of white showing. And it's not such a bad idea to go ahead and put a piece of tape or a Post-it note on there too so it doesn't move. And then I just ran it through my Big Shot and I ended up with this piece here. So that was going to be the front there. And this is super easy to get this put together. This is a 2-inch by 5 1/4. All these measurements are on my blog post for this card. So I'm going to put some adhesive on my, oh no, what am I doing? Oh good, I didn't have a heavy hand there. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get some of this adhesive off of here. This is called an adhesive remover. It's not an ink remover, adhesive remover. You can find them many different places. Oh, I wanted to show you, I used the bark. Now when I did the bark, I wanted this scallop part to be plain. So what I did is I just look. Now don't follow this. I use this line a lot to line things up, but don't follow it on here because the bark embossing is further down to the edge of the embossing folder. So what I did is just I looked at it and gave myself an eyeball of exactly where it was just about nice and it was up above the stitching. And then I'm gonna run it through my Big Shot. No, my Big Shot, my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. I do have 2 of them set up, but I'm using my purple plate. So what I do is it comes with the 2 plates. I'm gonna remove that one, and then I'm gonna put my embossing folder on top of the base plate and then put the purple plate. Now this is the purple plate is the older one. I have the gray plate, but it is in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to run that through my embossing machine to get that nice texture at the top. Sorry that I don't do it online, but I know you guys all know how to emboss, and it's a little bit shaky and wobbly when you're putting it on the table. So now you can see I have this nice little embossing down here, and then I was going to then stick my ribbon there, but you can kind of see the embossing underneath it. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? Why don't I put some of the beautiful papaya down here? So what I'm going to do is put this papaya to right along the edge of there. Oop. And then I can play around with the ribbon. So I'm just putting that piece, and this is just a 1/4 inch piece, or wait, that's a 1/2 inch, isn't it? Isn't it funny? You should know. Yes, it's 1/2 inch, Cindy. Silly girl. Okay, so I'm just putting that right along the edge of my embossing folder just to make sure I can put my scallops on my grid paper and I can see that it's lining up. Okay, so that gave a little bit of visual interest there too. And I am going to snip off this little teeny bits right here with my paper snips. And remember, I told you the girls were gonna fire me if I didn't clean my scissors. I cleaned my scissors and everybody was very happy about that. So on this card then, I put a little bit of more of the pale papaya going up there. So you can decide exactly which way you can do it. Actually, I think I'm gonna do it exactly in this place. I think on the other one I was doing it as an afterthought because I just wanted to do it that way. So I am actually gonna put some adhesive here on these edges on the back. And I'm gonna actually put it, it depends. If you would like to have more of the pale papaya showing, maybe that's why I did that one. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I like more of the pale papaya. So I'm gonna bring out my craft mat because I have some adhesive on the back of that and I just wanna get it to where, yeah, I do like having a little bit more of the pale papaya showing. So I'm just gonna line this up on this edge. Why are my fingers not working? I think it's because I had a cup of tea and a cup of coffee, but we're doing Sunday dinner with the family, so and we're kind of doing it earlier. like at 3. So I decided I don't want to eat a big breakfast or really eat breakfast because we're going to eat. So I think I've got a lot of caffeine in me. Okay, so there we go. We put our evening evergreen ribbon on there, and we can just pop that onto the front of the card as soon as I find some adhesive. I'm going to be really generous here with my adhesive because we're going to put it here so we have that. Did I actually finish my thought a moment ago when I said all the measurements would be on my blog? So all the measurements for in the products and everything I use are underneath the YouTube description. You'll see, visit my blog here, and there's a link. Just press that link. It'll take you right over to cindyleedesigns.com, and then you can see all of the information in my online store and if you need anything. So now we're going to pop this little gingham here from the pansy paper, and we're just going to line it up so that we have the same amount. And I actually think I'm off a little on my white, so I think I'm going to pull this up a little bit. My white, because I think I needed a little skinnier of a space at the top. But sometimes I don't notice that till I take a photo of a picture. A photo shows 1,000 details. Okay, so we've got that front part. Now, just to show you, okay, so we have our little flower, and see how this is dried just since we've worked there, which, there we go. This is another really cute scallop die. It's the second one from the smallest. And the neat thing about this one is it has little broken spaces here. Ah, guess what? Ding dong. That's why I need to take this ribbon off here, because we're going to be sliding this in here. But before we do that, let's get our stamping done. So let's get our stamp set, because I forgot to mount it. We're going to be using the So Very Happy For You. And where is it? So Very Happy For You. It is, oh, it's right here, silly. Of course it was already ready. Okay, so we're going to stamp that down at the bottom of this really, oh, and you know what? There we go. I almost said I needed a pad under this, because when you're using a photopolymer, it's good to have your paper piercing mat, but I actually have a mat underneath my grid paper. Okay, so happy for you. Now the thing I forgot to do was, and if you want to, you could also use these little sprinkles on here, but when I did it, I just was in a clean mood, so I didn't end up. So what you're gonna do is, there's 2 little slits on this side, so you could run cardstock or ribbon through those little slits and weave it through, or on this card I'm just going to weave this through the back of here. I really like that. You could make a really big weaving there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that loose and pop that ribbon back around under. Don't do as I do. Do as I say, because how many times do you have to pop that piece back under there? Okay, now we've got this free-flowing piece, and now I can decide where I want to put it, and I'm just going to put some dimensionals underneath it. So let's grab some dimensionals. I'm just going to put 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. And the reason I'm just doing 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom is because we have a little bit of height, a little bulkiness underneath where the scallop is and the designer paper and that little strip. So this way we can decide exactly where we want, and then we can repair a little bit here. Okay, so let's just put it, I know when I was trying to get the orientation on here, I wanted to it was easier for me to look at. Do you ever turn your cards around to get the best way to, okay, there we go. There we go. And if you ever have an issue like this, my little trick is to, let me see, grab, now where are they? Where's my glue dots? Where are they? They were just here because I was using them. Is just pull off. Oh my gosh, how can you lose a roll of glue dots? Just pull off a little glue dot and stick it under there. But, you know what? The place where I keep them, I hang them over a little piece of pliers in my little toolbox and they fell off. So just pull a little glue dot off and you can just repair it. Just stick it in to any place that's a little bit loose. And now I'm looking and seeing that I think this is a little crooked. So I'm gonna very carefully pull that up so I don't bend the paper. And I'm gonna look at it this way because I want it to, there, we're straight now. Okay, making a real quick card a lot longer. We're gonna pop on our flower. Where are my dimensionals? There they are. Okay, I was never known for my singing, but I did get to lead in the 5th grade Independence America play. I did get to be the person that led out with my friend Becky. It wasn't because of my singing. I think it was more because of my organizational skills. That's just about as funny as can be, isn't it? When you see me on camera looking like a goofball. Okay, so here we go. I just used some dark Daffodil Delight blends on the in the middle of that card. And the reason I just used that is because I just thought that, I'm trying to grab something over here and I knocked something over. Okay, because when I put these little in color jewels on here, they have like a real nice iridescent orangey, pinky, papaya, peachy color. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw some Wink of Stella on here. And of course, Wink of Stella, you put it on and you think it's not doing anything. And then you pick the card up and you're like, oh, that's cute. So then we're just gonna pop in some of these in color jewels, the pale papaya ones. And actually on this card, I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen. Why do you ask? Because I just wanted to see what they look like. Do I? Yeah, I'm gonna try those evergreen ones. Get another one here. Okay, and another one up here. Now, did I put a big one? I did put a big one up there. Sometimes placing those 3 little jewels take me forever just to figure out where I want them. So there you go. You can see the difference between using the pale papaya and the Evening Evergreen. It's kind of nice when you have all those, like if you're making multiple cards, you can use both of those. So we've got some little pop up here. And if you have any places that are kind of a little bit wobbly, you can kind of tell, just go back in afterwards, after the fact, and just put a dimensional under there. There you go, gives a little, okay, so voila, why not repeat the front into the inside, but you need a longer part. And so what I did is I used a little bit bigger of a piece and I used 3.5. On the front, it was 3, this is 3.5, and I did the same thing that I did with that die. I lined it up exactly, just showing a tiny, tiny sliver of white. I adhered a Post-it note onto here, I ran it through, and I got this beautiful white scallop. It gives you plenty of room to write, and so I'm going to put some adhesive here. Now notice I'm not really putting much, I'm putting a little bit here, but I'm not putting any right under here because I'm going to slip under a piece of that designer series paper. So actually I'm going to put the designer series paper first this time. So here we go. I just took that same paper and I put a 1/4 inch border around the bottom and the 2 sides and got the gingham there showing. And now I can, and this is a 1 inch piece. So if you go by these measurements and do a There we go. If you go by these measurements, oh, that's not straight. Let's move this. Wasn't straight. And here I can't do any trimming, so I do have to make sure it's straight. So get this straight here down where the scallop is. Get a 1/8 inch border at the top. I should be good now. Yes, it's perfect now. Okay, so if you use the 3.5, you're gonna have space here for the 1 inch. So if you do 3.5 and put it right to the edge of the 3.5, then you can put a 1 inch piece here. And we all have those 1 inch pieces laying around, right? So there you go. Just to, you know, like I said, you could probably look at this card and see how I made it, but just having that little tip of the measurements here and that little tip of how to make it easier to die cut with a nice white border around your die cuts. Just do a blank one, stamp your image, put this around it, and then your die will slip right into the spot. There we go. It fits right into the spot. You can see it's not moving when I'm holding it. And then you just run it through your big shot and you're gonna have a perfect image with the white around it. So I hope that little tip, I had learned about it earlier in my stamping career, totally forgot about it. So thanks, Sandy, again, and I hope you guys have fun. If you have any questions, please go over to my blog, cindyleebdesigns.com, and you can ask a question in the comments, or you can email me or email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com, or you can text me or call me at 724-323-2296. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.